Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lorelei Shamayo. We're Metaphysical Empowerment and Wellness Events. We host events throughout the Northwest and online. We're currently in Seattle, Portland, Salem, Eugene, and online. We interview our practitioners and our vendors so you get a chance to know who we are before you meet us in person. And today I'm interviewing Coach Casey. Coach Casey, it's great to have you.
Likewise, I'm super excited. Thanks for having me and doing this interview.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, so tell us, what is it that you do? What do you offer at our events?
Well, what I do is I help people to create perfect health and feel great all the time. And if they want to, even to achieve the body of their dreams and get into the best shape of their life, even after everything else has failed. And I do that by way of bridging the gap and connecting the dots and really creating alignment and agreement between our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves. And so, directly to be plain and clear about that, what does that look like? Basically, that looks like I help people to reduce physical symptoms like aches and pains, weight gain, tiredness or sleeplessness, cravings for unhealthy or unhelpful foods or substances or behaviors. I help people to decrease mental symptoms like brain fog, short attention span, lack of focus, lack of drive, or even negative self-talk or obsessive thinking. And I help people to reduce emotional symptoms like stress, worry, overwhelm, or even rage or sadness or hopelessness. And I help people to reduce what I would call spiritual symptoms, which to me is just that overall sense perhaps that they're lacking a sense of direction or meaning or purpose or fulfillment in their lives. And so conversely then, I help people to increase or improve their physical energy and vitality and strength, while also helping them to lose weight and burn fat and sleep better at night. And like I said, if they want to, I do help people achieve the body of their dreams and get into the good shape and all that if they want to. My primary focus is health, however, because weight loss is an automatic byproduct of health, where the opposite isn't actually true. But and I also help people increase and improve their mental focus and clarity and attention span, drive, motivation, increase their emotional feelings of the overall sense of happiness and joy and peace and calm, and being able to maintain a generally positive outlook on life, even in the face of adverse circumstances. And then, of course, I can help people to improve or increase their what I would call their spiritual being, which is that sense of meaning and purpose in life, like we have a reason to be here, and that sense of fulfillment. And then as well, on top of that spiritual piece of kind of the purpose and the meaning and everything, one of the other things that I really help people do is in that little box is to really achieve the confidence and that sense of personal power and hope and everything that's kind of required for us to actually take action and move forward and do those things that we're feeling called to do, but maybe we're a little hesitant or scared, and hence why we're not feeling so great about life.
Yeah. Well, these are great outcomes. Maybe share a little bit about how you go about doing this with people. And does it always impact all these things, or does it impact just some of these depending on what a person's focus is?
And that's such a great question. And that's what I find. See, when I first started, kind of what, my story goes that I was a musician before, and that was basically what my kind of life vision was. That's how I felt that I could connect with the world and kind of make an impact and everything. And so I got to a point in my late 30s where it just kind of came to a point where everything I'd been working for to that point came crashing down. My band had dissolved after, reaching a pretty decent level of success, at least as far as for what I was hoping for. And my relationship fell apart. And I really lost my own sense of purpose, my sense of hope, my sense of identity. I wasn't really sure who I was in the world anymore, if I wasn't kind of the guy on stage with the guitar and getting the crowd going and all that. And so that for me started this downward spiral of my physical health. I started gaining a lot of weight and my mental health. I was depressed. I was angry. I was working a job I hated, living somewhere I hated. And I started self-medicating with alcohol and food and things like this. And it really all just kind of came down, and I hit bottom to the point where I actually got a DUI, which is just way outside of my spectrum of reality. And the moment where everything kind of changed for me, I hit this low point where I during all that mess, I had kind of decided, well, look, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I was just getting more tired, more exhausted, more sick, more miserable, more overweight. But I thought, well, I'm just going to do whatever I can do to kind of make money. I just put my focus on, I'm just going to work and distract myself and work. So one of the things that I did was I started renting out rooms in my apartment on Airbnb. And I had this situation one night where I had this girl that I was dating was over at my apartment. I had rented a room out to this guy on Airbnb who turned out to be very mentally ill. And so, one night there we are, and this man started really going off the rails, really freaking out, very threatening, very, screaming. And I mean, he was mentally unstable. And it occurred to me in that moment that I realized I had let my own health and well-being decline so far that if this man would have attacked myself or this girl that I was dating, who was, probably 110 pounds soaking wet and 5 foot tall, I wouldn't have been able to stop him. And I realized that was something that I had, got myself into that situation, and it was scary for me. And that was the moment when I looked in the mirror. We actually ended up having to spend the entire night locked in my master bedroom, and I had taken all the kitchen knives out of the kitchen and locked them in the room and everything, basically waiting for the next day to come so I could get this guy out of my apartment. And so that was the moment where I started looking at how to turn things around. And, what I realized through all of that was it's not just diet and exercise for health. It's not just supplements. It's the whole shebang. And so, as you're saying, do I always help people with all those things? Because it is a wide array. What I found is that without addressing the whole, we're not able to really fix those little parts. And you can't affect one part without affecting the whole. And that's why what I find with my clients is they'll come in to me because they want to lose weight, or they'll come into me because, for example, maybe they can't sleep. They're saying, I can't sleep. I can't turn my mind off, these types of things. And what I find is that when I work with my clients, it tends to be the whole thing. And without addressing the whole thing, the results don't tend to be as well. And then what I find is, if we fix this one thing, then we get this unexpected byproduct over here. So when I start working with my clients, they might come in, for example, say for weight loss, or they're like, man, I'm tired all the time. I want to get my energy, or I want to get my focus together. And through the process that I've created, which I call the Coach Casey method, through the process that I've created where we address all these things, it just turns out, yes, we solved the problem that they wanted to have solved, but then all this other great stuff starts happening too, and their relationships improve, and their confidence improves, and all these other byproducts. So, and that's why I really kind of say that all that stuff happens, because it tends to be like that, based on the way that the Coach Casey method bridges that gap, that's what I found is the best way to go about it, is addressing the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual all in one package.
Can you give us just a little glimpse into the black box of what are some of the aspects of what you do with
the black
people?
box? That sounds fascinating. Yes. So I help people primarily. Have three primary ways that I help people throughout the Coach Casey method. And we move through a process, and inside of that process, we work with the physical, the mental, emotional, and the spiritual. And so there's three primary ways. I use, firstly, nutritional and amino acid therapy. And this primarily just addresses the physical part. And secondly, the biggest weapon that I have in my arsenal that really I have for creating alignment and building a bridge and connecting all these dots and all these moving parts, all the way from our physical body to our mental thoughts, to our emotional feelings, and to our spiritual sense of higher purpose, connecting all those pieces all the way from the one side to the other end of the spectrum, is clinical hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy really is the best tool that I have found for creating complete alignment and perfect health, because we're able to make the positive changes to the physical side by allowing us to modify our actions and behaviors, and of course the thoughts and the feelings, and over to the spiritual side by helping us connect really and tapping into our higher sense of meaning and purpose in life, and getting some of those bigger, deeper life questions answered, all by using hypnotherapy. And so then lastly, if needed, I use a method of intuitive healing called the body code, created by Dr. Bradley Nelson, in order to fill in any potential gaps on anything that perhaps the nutritional or amino acid therapy or the clinical hypnotherapy might have missed. And through those three kind of delivery mechanisms, I'm able to help people achieve these massive transformations in their lives that they're hoping to achieve.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I once upon a time was a biologist, so I'm going to ask more of a biologist-y kind of question for a moment. Just so in terms of the amino acid therapy, I know that there's some that the body makes on its own and some that it doesn't. And then that's like the general thing. And like, is it often just that people are missing different things, or particularly having a different balance of things is really supportive in new ways? Or like what kinds of things around that?
Wow, that is a fantastic question. So effectively, as with more or less anything in our body, with these automatic, what we'd consider automatic body processes, like our hormones, our neurotransmitters, and really anything that we expect our body to just automatically do inside our body, I believe, as most healers believe, I believe that the body is a perfectly designed healing machine. It knows how to heal itself, and it wants to heal itself. But here's the problem that we run into, is that even the body still requires the raw materials in order to do what it needs to do. So, for example, in the case of neurotransmitters, which is what I'll be talking about and helping people with at the fair, in that case, with the neurotransmitters, for example, are built from amino acids. Well, if amino acids are not getting put into our face, if they're not getting put into our body, then our brain can't build the neurotransmitters to do what they're supposed to do in the first place. So as you suggested, for example, there are some of the things that the body would make on its own. For example, serotonin, let's say, as a neurotransmitter, speaking on the amino acid and neurotransmitter and brain balance topic. The body can produce its own serotonin, but it has to have the raw amino acids that it builds the serotonin out of. And it can't automatically build the amino acids. We have to feed it the amino acids so it can build the neurotransmitters. Does that answer your question? Is that what you're after?
Yeah, it does generally go, and yeah, so probably people are lacking building blocks or actual amino acids and things that they don't realize, and in a way that would support maximal health or optimal
right,
health.
And the way that I think this might be more kind of what you were looking for. So the way that happens, first off, just nutritionally in diet, those raw materials that we need just aren't typically in our diet. They aren't typically in the food. They're hard to get anymore due to, the lack of nutrients in the soil and all the various environmental factors. But also, when it comes to neurotransmitters in particular, what happens is if we get in a state where our body is under any kind of stress, emotional stress, physical stress, pain, if it has to manage pain, if we have to manage grief or anything, and just day-to-day stuff. If we're mentally burning ourselves out sitting in even rush hour traffic, for example, when our stress level of any kind goes up, then our body compensates by releasing a higher output of those neurotransmitters so that we can maintain homeostasis. So, for example, endorphins are our painkillers, our body's natural painkillers. So if we have emotional, mental, or physical pain, if it's increased for any reason, then our body has to put out more of those endorphins. And so then, if the output of endorphins goes up, then the input of the raw materials that we should be putting in our face to allow our body to maintain that higher output also needs to go up. But that's not usually what happens. And so that's how we become depleted.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And there's just generally so much stress. Like I think our baseline level of stress, it's so much higher now than it was at one point. And so I could see,
what I always say, I agree. I always tell my clients, I say, look, life is freeway speed. Just everyday life is a stressful life. So everyday life is freeway speed. So you got to be like ready to go 70, and you've got to be able to have your vehicle prepared for, going that fast all the time.
I imagine there are all sorts of other ways, right? You relax people too, so then they're not as stressed also. So it's like this. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. How exciting.
I love it. I think it's very exciting. So at the fair, what I'll be doing is speaking on. I will be speaking on the 11 truths of hypnotherapy, so that people can understand that. It's, hypnotherapy is always a really fun talk to talk about. We won't be doing any of the making people quack like a duck or any of that kind of thing. So we'll be talking about that, and then also I'll be teaching people exactly what they need to know at the fair to be able to accurately assess where they are in terms of their potential neurotransmitter chemical imbalances and exactly what they'll need to do to remedy that. And I'll be offering free assessments. They're quick, they're easy, that people can just do right there at the fair, so that they'll know. And then if they want to take some kind of action to remedy that, then I will have the nutritional supplements available and the amino acid therapy things available that they would need to do that if they want to. Great.
Sounds lovely. And I imagine, right, all kinds of other deeper private work is available for people too, as well as all the work that you'll do at the fair.
Absolutely. And the at the fair, it was, well, I'm not really going to work on hypnosis with people. And like you said, the deeper work, and really when I start working with new clients in any aspect, the very first place that I start is always, let's do an assessment on your neurotransmitters and your chemical chemistry in your brain to see if there's any imbalances, because it's the low-hanging fruit. You can make the biggest immediate impact. It's easy, it's quick, it's the least expensive type of therapy there is. And if we want to do any kind of bigger, deeper healing, then it's going to be harder to do the bigger, deeper healing if our brain is messy, or we're not, we don't have the resilience or whatever. And then likewise, if we get that cleaned up first, everything else is easier. So I always start all my clients there, basically no matter what they want to work on, no matter what type of modality we're going to go through, whatever it is, I say, hey, let's start here. So take this assessment. Let's see where we're at. And if there is any imbalances, we'll just get those cleaned up real quick. Bam. And as a matter of fact, so then everything else happens easier, quicker and easier. So that's why it's perfect for the fair as well. And what I find is that when people do have any type of neurotransmitter imbalance or deficiency, then when we implement the amino acid therapy and the nutritional therapy, it literally, we can feel the positive effects of that in as fast as 20 minutes, maybe 24 hours, maybe 48 at a maximum. But most people, including myself, it's like that. Mm-hmm. It's that fast.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
It's really great. I'm excited.
How exciting. Well, if people want to learn more about you and more about your work before they arrive at a fair, where would they go? Where are you online?
They would go to thecoachcaseymethod.com, thecoachcaseymethod.com.
Great. And Casey, right, is C-A-S-E-Y. So that's
C-A-S-E-Y, like Casey at bat. Of course, I do also have a Coach Casey on Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. Lovely hearing what you do.
Yeah, this has been great, Lorelai. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you at the fair.
You're very welcome. And so for all of you listening and watching, you can find out more about us online at MetaphysicalEmpowermentEvents.com. Thanks again, Casey, Coach Casey. Bye-bye.